Now today I'm going to be telling you about something that will probably go down in history. Now, you may have heard of this little company called Gymshark. Now, I'm not a crazy bodybuilder at all, but I do go to the gym quite often and I do see a lot of people wearing this brand and their products like the gym t-shirts, but I never really thought anything of it. Now, I remember a couple months ago when I was in Dallas, Texas over in America. If you're interested in what type of event it was by Valuetainment. It was called The Vault. Now, Valuetainment is a huge entrepreneur channel and I highly recommend you check them out. Now, typically at the events that I go to around the world, I'm usually one of the only ones that has come from the UK, and Americans can easily tell this by my accent. Now, it was mainly an event for entrepreneurs, and at the end of the event, if you bought the CEO package, we had a special dinner in the evening at Wolfgang Puck restaurant in the Reunion Tower. Now, throughout the 3 days, I networked a lot and actually made some real good friends from around the world. So as we were spinning around in this restaurant and we were having different views of the city and we were eating some bougie ass food, someone asked me if I ever heard of Gymshark. Now that kind of caught me off guard. Like I said, I only really saw the brand and company through people wearing it at the gym. I knew it was a UK company and I seen it being promoted by a few influencers on Instagram sometimes, but for me that was it. He then continued on to say that a lot of his friends that are gym goers in the States loved the brand and some of them even helped promote the company. And again, this kind of took me by surprise. I had this perception that Gymshark was just a small company that a few people in my local gym purchased from. I would have never expected to be hearing or even talking about it in the States. We then transitioned into some other business talk and had a very good evening, let's say. Some of us decided to go to a bar, which kind of led us to another bar, which kind of led us to another bar, which eventually led us to a club. And let's just say what happens in Texas stays in Texas. But the next day was the day of my flight, and as I was hanging out my arse at the airport, I quickly remembered how someone had mentioned Gymshark at the dinner the night before. So literally a few minutes before I went to board my flight back home, I did a quick Google search and read the most recent news article that came up about them. Sportswear brand Gymshark hits £500 million valuation as it shuns blue chip investors. I snapped out of my hangover and couldn't believe what I was reading. This company that I thought was little happens to be the UK's fastest growing company. I genuinely could not believe it. I planned to do a bit of note taking and revision what I learned at the conference on the flight back home, but I could not get the shock of Gymshark out of my head. This little company that I assumed turns out to be a global dominating force in the fitness industry, competing with industry giants such as Nike and Under Armour. As we were taking off, I had a last look at the article again and saw a photo of a guy named Ben Francis in the article. I knew that as soon as I came back home, I would be researching the hell out of the UK's fastest growing company. So as soon as I got back, I got to work. Now what I found out is Gymshark is a UK company founded by someone called Ben Francis. Now, Ben does have a YouTube channel and I highly recommend you check it out. Now, Ben described himself as a bit of a tech guy as he was growing up, and he created and developed a lot of websites. On one of his first proper websites, he sold customized private car license plates. He then, at the start of the smartphone era, started to develop and code applications, specifically fitness apps in this case, and they were smash hits in the charts in the App Store. This eventually led him to create Gymshark when he was just 19 years old in 2012. He started the company with just a group of friends while he was at university, and while he was juggling university, the company Gymshark, gym itself, he also was a Pizza Hut delivery driver. So originally, Gymshark just sold supplements such as protein shakes, pre-workouts, amino acids, products of that nature. Now initially, Ben and his friends did not have a lot of money, so they couldn't afford to purchase any stock. So what Ben decided to do was drop ship products. Now, we have a completely free ebook and training going into depth of what dropshipping is and how you can build your own business through it. So if you click the link below in the description, you'll be able to access that. But what essentially dropshipping is becoming the middleman between the supplier and the customer. You create a website and a brand and you drive traffic, which is a marketing term for people, to your website. Now the thing with dropshipping is, once a customer purchases a product off your website, they are really purchasing it from the supplier who will send out the product to the customer for you. All you need to do is drive traffic to the products. You don't have to personally buy any inventory or products yourself, you just include a small margin in the price, which is the profit you make. And this is initially how Gymshark started, dropshipping supplements to customers. And I was quite surprised, but also very happy to see this such humble beginnings, because it makes it more realistic. Because when I was reading the headline the first time about Gymshark, about it being a £500 million company, I automatically pictured a group of 60-year-old men in a boardroom all sat in suits. And that may even be the case now, but initially Gymshark wasn't created through millions of pounds of investments. It was created through an idea in an ambitious 19-year-old's head. And I guess that's where all business and ideas start. Now, Ben mentioned that it took nearly 2 months to get their first ever sale on their website. Now, one piece of advice he gives people when trying to start a business is that you have to be creative in the front end of your business and the back end of your business. Now, if you've never heard of these terms and these concepts, don't worry, let me explain. The front end of your business is made up from all lead generation sales. So essentially the first sale you make to each customer. This mainly is from driving traffic from sources such as social media to get people onto your website and to get that person to make a purchase. Now, the back end of your business is the sales you make after to a customer once they've completed that first initial purchase, as they progress through your value ladder and typically more expensive products. Now here's the secret. The back end of your business tends to be more profitable because you don't have to spend any more money to acquire that customer once they're on your email marketing list, for example. Now typically front end sales break even for you after all the marketing costs and cost per acquisition of a customer, which is essentially how much money it takes in a marketing budget to get a customer to purchase. Now, a business that only makes money on the front end is under constant threat of a low profit margin and low cash flow within a business. That's why good entrepreneurs also build out a solid back end, because that's where you make the real money for your business. And that's exactly what I was taught through my mentors, and that's exactly what Ben did. He says that if it wasn't for being creative and using dropshipping techniques on the back end of the business initially, then Gymshark wouldn't have even existed. And by doing this allowed Gymshark to accumulate enough money to stock other people's brands and clothes, which eventually evolved into the company creating their own products and clothing with designed fits and better materials. And eventually, at the beginning of his second year of university, Ben decided to drop out, and a couple of months later, he quit his Pizza Hut delivery job to concentrate on Gymshark full time. And now at one point, he was literally manually printing, sewing and mailing all the orders himself. The problem that Ben had was he now had a product, he now had a business system, he just needed traffic. Now, in order to get more exposure and more traffic, Ben implemented a very good marketing strategy called influencer marketing, which was then wholeheartedly implemented by the whole company. This mainly involves companies sending their products to influencers, which are people with a large following, typically on social media, in exchange for free merchandise or a fee or something in return. Now, there's many types of deals you can strike up with the influencer, and Gymshark was sending the products to certain fitness influencers completely free of charge in exchange for feedback and promotion. Nowadays this is normal, but back then when Gymshark was up and coming, influencer marketing was not as saturated as it is now. So this definitely gave Gymshark a huge advantage and a very clever way to gain brand awareness and promotion without having to spend a huge amount in marketing budget. After consistency and going through many hurdles over the years and constantly reinvesting profits, Gymshark continued to grow and grow, from constantly creating new high quality products to coming out with a women's range, which Ben even admits wasn't great to start off with, but eventually it took off very well and now is a very good part of the business. And after taking on more experienced members of staff over the years, Gymshark has exploded from a little idea in an ambitious 19-year-old's head into a global multi-million pound company. It just goes to show, over 100 years ago, stories like this would have been very rare to hear of. Typically only people from Very rich families with generations of wealth backing them up would only been able to succeed on this level. But in this day and age, the information age as I like to call it, it's essentially an entrepreneur's revolution where you don't need to be sitting on generations of family wealth. The internet has changed absolutely everything. It's now not a question of can I make this work? It's a question of have I got the ambition, drive and determination to make this work? Because with the internet, all the tools are there for you and the world is there for the taking. That's my message for you today. Don't be scared of that idea in your head. My biggest, happiest moment is when I dropped out of university to follow my passion and dreams. Now, I'm not telling you to drop university, but what I am saying is instead of coming home from work, school or university just to sit down and binge watch Netflix, go and work on that idea. Go and work on that project that you've been thinking about for years. You will never know what could come out of it. And if you're saying to me right now that you don't have any money to start, that's bullshit, because I've made a video on the channel for you to watch and learn how to start a business when you have no money. So make sure you go and check that out. And my final thoughts. I just want to personally congratulate what Ben and the whole of the Gymshark company has achieved. They have clearly paved a brand new way of thinking and execution of business in today's world. And the whole story of Gymshark has motivated a lot of people. And regardless of the outcome of what happens, whether they get sold, whether they get bought out, or even if they don't make it to the happy finish line, remember, this is business. I genuinely wish them all the best. And just know that this little fitness company, regardless of the future and the outcome of the company, Gymshark will go down in history for what it has achieved. Now, if you are interested in more of Ben and Gymshark's story, make sure you go check out his channel. And if you are interested in maybe building a business, especially an online business, I've created a completely free ebook and training diving in deeper than this into helping you create your own dropshipping business. So make sure you click the link in the description to check that out. And if money is a concern for you, don't worry, make sure you check out our video on where I will guide you how to start a side business with no money at all. And if this is your first time visiting the Golden Knowledge channel, welcome to the channel and we really appreciate your support. If you do like the channel, make sure you give us a thumbs up. We aim to produce at least 2 videos every single week. So make sure you subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any golden knowledge. I'll see you soon.